Hello and welcome to the show. Today I am going to be, driving the most powerful vehicle that I will have ever used in a Forza game, because this particular Plymouth GTX is the Fast and Furious edition that has 2,000 horsepower. That is a lot of power. And it's an awful lot of power. It's going to try and beat a GT car around a wet circuit. I think it might be struggling to do that. Now, to help it along the way, of course, we are going to be fully upgrading the car. While I can do bugger all to the engine, what I can help it out with are the brakes. For example, we will get slightly better ones. We can help it out with the tyres. I can't do anything with the suspension. It's kind of already on race suspension. We are going to make it lighter, because why not make the power-to-weight ratio even better? Down to 3,000 pounds. Still not massively light, I'll be honest, this vehicle, but there we go. Yeah, that's it's quite a scary prospect, I'm going to be honest. By the time we're done, we might be able to get it down below. In fact, we are now down below 3,000 pounds. Does it come over with the roll cage standard? I think it already does, so we're not going to have that adding any weight on the car. Although we will have bigger tyres, of course, before we are done. So yeah, all of the handling bits and pieces in there. Now, tyres, we are of course going to be running the vehicle on the race compound of a tyre. It doesn't jump the PI up quite as much as I might expect, but never mind. We will also, of course, have as big a tyre width as possible. That is 325s on the front. That's big front tyres. Needed. Very much so needed, but 325s on there and 345s on the rear. Now, 345s are a fairly common thing that I'll run on the back of muscle cars. Tend to have them deal with maybe 1,000 horsepower, not 2,000. So yeah, we're asking a lot. We are asking a lot of the vehicle. We will also give the car. It's going to stand a hope in hell. It's going to have some aero put on the car. There we go. Wow, that's serious PI difference with that rear wing. Again, much needed. Oh, we have just over 3,000 pounds now. We've done with these. A serious PI difference on there. Bonnet, we could get some of the weight back off again. And I don't really like. Problem is, I don't really like any of these. They all restrict visibility. And for the sake of £7, I don't care. I just don't care for the sake of that. And that will be our vehicle done. You can, if you're, well, I say, probably more sensible, let's be honest, go for all-wheel drive. We're not going for all-wheel drive. Got to keep the car with a standard drive line. Got to have that 2,000 going through the rear wheels. Yeah. We're going to see if this can beat the Audi R8 LMS around a wet circuit. I think it might struggle, but it should be interesting to find out. So, we are off to the Suzuka West Circuit, where I'm going to have 5 laps to try and go faster than a 1:23.0 time set by that Audi R8 LMS race car. And our wheel spin machine is going to have to try and beat that. I have a sneaky suspicion. Oh, God. We're going to have issues. We're going to have issues. Okay, that was me being a little bit silly with the throttle, I'll be honest. That was me being a bit silly. Now we've got to try and not be quite so silly with the car. Oh, the brakes are not good. The brakes are not good on the Plymouth. That's a slight concern when you've got a car with this much power. I kind of want brakes that are going to slow it down, and that did not feel. Yeah, okay, so we're going to be real early on the brakes. Now, you know, to be fair to the Plymouth, we are probably going quite quick into some of these corners. I think we're going to struggle to carry the speed through some of the turns that, like the R8, for example. It's probably going quicker through there, and I bet is later under brakes. It does not feel great at all in terms of the slowing down portion. I'm massively surprised by that. You know, perhaps not quite so much. It's not going to handle like a GT car. It's going to have to try and make up time, well, with acceleration, with straight line speed, which is difficult to do around here when there is very little in the way of a straight line speed sections. Hopefully it'll be able to make up some time. I don't know how close it will get to the Audi, but there we go. As we head around, oh God, hit the curb and spun the car sideways, head around the final corner. Oh, that's not a fun curb to be bouncing our way over. See how fast can we go in the Plymouth is wiggling. I don't even know if I dare get to full throttle in 5th gear. About 180 miles an hour with the rear wheels on the grass almost. Well, we have now skidded off through 130R, but yeah, rear wheels on the grass, not a good way to be trying to slow down for a corner. It could have been a lot worse accident, I'll be honest. Oh, whoopsie, forgot how wide it was. We're fine, we got away with a small clip on the tyre bundle. I'm not sure if I want to use 3rd gear out of these corners. Honestly, it might not be a bad idea. Well, that was a terrible line through that corner, turned in too soon. We've got a fair bit of understeer going on, to say the least, in this GTX. It's a little bit weird in that I was expecting, of course, when you have this much power, oversteer to be the big overarching problem with the car. That's, you know, naturally that's what your brain assumes, but it's not really the case. Between the understeer and the poor brakes, the crazy wheel spin is almost a secondary concern in many ways. The bigger difficulty is getting the car slowed down. I can deal with the throttle, I can short shift my way out of these slower corners, and it's actually working quite well. Oh dear, although can't really get away with running across a curb like that. Silly, silly me. Having said that, we've surprisingly lined that up quite nicely to catapult myself down across the start-finish line. It's 25.8, actually already gone faster than the Starion, 189 miles an hour. Might be able to push that a little bit more. Probably not by... I don't think I can quite do the 200 miles an hour. I tell a lie, I can do 200 miles an hour before we hit 130R. I can probably do 200 miles an hour relatively easily. I can't slow it down from 200 miles an hour to make the corner, however, so I think 190-ish, might be able to get 91, 92 potentially, is going to be as fast as the GTX goes around here. That's very, very quick though. For such a short straight, that is very, very quick indeed, especially considering the conditions. You know, in the dry, this will get 200 there, no problem at all, I would imagine. But in the pouring rain such as this, to try and get that power down onto the road and still accelerate away, yeah, that's some serious speed. Can we carry any more around here? I'm definitely preferring it in 4th. Definitely preferring it in 4th around these longer corners. It's just a little bit more composed. You're slightly less on a knife edge, that if you use a smidge too much throttle, you're not going to have sudden massive oversteer that spits the car towards a wall. Easy does it once more on the throttle. I really don't want to be playing on the curbs if I can avoid it. They are bouncy and scary for this GTX. Oh, we're just 24. That's really quite fast. That's really quite fast from the GTX. We're only a second and a half down on the Audi, essentially. Not sure I can find a second and a half with this car in 2 laps. I'm quite pleasantly surprised at how quick it is in terms of lap speed, and I wasn't expecting the issues that we are running into. Yeah, like a lot of that second and a half, I feel, is being lost not through the manic oversteer. It's being lost through the poor brake performance and the chronic understeer. Well, this car is an interesting thing. This lap might have just gone away from me. Oh, we can recover that somehow. I'm not sure we're going to carry much momentum out of the hairpin, but while yeah, I feel like the bigger problems I'm having with this car are the understeer and so on. Perhaps if you do overstep that mark a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, then the 2,000 horsepower will get you. It doesn't take much to overstep that mark, and sure enough, this much power in a car like this, it will want to try and throw you in the scenery. But there we go. We have, I don't think, got to full throttle at any point. Oh, down to 24.0 from the GTX. That's 191 miles an hour. As I said, I think that's about as fast as we're going to get. Can't stop it. I tried. I pushed my luck way too hard. Well, I say way too hard. It's 130R. We probably pushed our luck by about a mile an hour through there. And with this car's grip and braking and so on, that's just enough to send it over the edge at 130R. 24.0 is a quick lap time from the GTX. We are not up on the split. We're definitely not going to be now because I hit the curb too hard on the inside. It's enough to upset the car, send it sideways, lose a little bit of time, lose a little bit of control, and there we go. Yeah, I'm surprisingly getting away with running across that grass on the inside there. I wasn't really expecting it to be as happy running. It runs across there better than it does some of the curbs. It's fine, for whatever reason, lunatic muscle car and all. Can we get any more power down here? No, we can't. I'm trying to... oh, that was too much throttle. That was way too much throttle, and we're going to go the wrong way into Spoon. That's not quite how you make corners. My bad. I was trying to do as small steering moves as I could, and then I realised I wasn't quite turning the corner enough, and it was just... once I realised things were going wrong, I couldn't quite correct it well enough. There was just too jankier movements and we got into trouble, and much wheel spin will be had. 24.0 though from the Plymouth is a hell of a lap time. That is a hell of a lap time indeed. Yes, it's got ludicrous levels of power, but this is not a power circuit that we are driving around. Handling is vitally important. There is really only one place to use all of this power, and to get within a second, in fact it is just under a second away from the Audi, is really not quite what I expected. Not quite what I expected. I thought it'd be struggling. I say struggling. I thought it'd be fighting with a Starry and so on around that sort of part of the table. But that's some decent time. In all honesty, yeah, the 2,000 horsepower is crazy and everything, and it will snap and bite you if you overstep that mark a tiny bit. But it's more controllable than I initially imagined. As I said, brakes, understeer, far bigger problems for this vehicle. It is now time, though, to find out just how fast a 2,000 horsepower Plymouth will go in a straight line. So, before we send our car running down the straight, I'll have a quick look with the gears and so on. We will run the car in the same configuration that it ran around the circuit, which means it will have the aero parts on, but I shall remove that as much as possible. We'll have a look at what we can do with the gears. It reckons about 268 miles an hour. If we go for longer gears, we might run out. There's about... that's it. It looks like it might be aero limited to 268 miles an hour. We may well run out of straight to get up to these sort of speeds. While the Le Mans straight is the longest straight that I can go to, it isn't endless down there. And we have seen in the past cars running out of road to get up towards their top speeds. And while, yes, this is a very, very powerful car, the vehicle that it's based on, while, you know, not the worst aerodynamic shape imaginable, it's not as good as, let's say, a Jaguar D-Type or a Lotus 11. I'm terrified to think how fast a Lotus 11 might go if you put a 2,000 horsepower engine in it. I would imagine very... I kind of want to do that swap now. I know the engine is bigger than the Lotus itself. However, it would be a terrifying... it'd probably take off. It would be that kind of level of terrifying experience. I have got this set to the dry, by the way. This isn't going to rain halfway... I hope not. It was set to dry. It shouldn't rain halfway down the down the straight. Yeah, the weather... I mentioned it a few times, actually. The weather, sort of different lighting, different weather conditions, and so on, are quite impressive on here. Oh, my God. The handling is wonky as anything. Here we go. We are on to the straight for the first... Whoa! To full throttle for the first time. We're up to 210 miles an hour before the corner. That's serious speed, as you would expect from this much power. We're up to 260 miles an hour. Absolutely no problem. Yeah, we're not going to have issues of running out of straight with this car. It's actually up to 269 miles an hour. It's just flickering around at this particular point. That hits that speed. Oh. I mean, there's a small bit of concern when you're going this much speed and the tyres are just continually smoking. That was also a jump. Oh, clock all on the inside. Oy, there we go. We're fine. We're fine. Was not quite prepared for that level of airtime. I'm pretty sure we spun the wheels. Certainly we were causing smoke from the tyres all the way down that straight. What a ludicrous vehicle. What a ludicrous vehicle this one. This one is. Good fun to mess around with, and all things considered, I think more controllable than expected. there are, yeah, obvious aforementioned problems, but there we go. Absurdly, brutally fast in the old acceleration front to that top speed. Did spin the wheels, which is odd. You don't tend to see that from the big tired muscle cars and so on. Often the really front-wheel drive cars, high-powered ones, will do strange things, and you might expect from the aforementioned, again, Lotus 11, those sort of cars. I have seen them smoke tyres down the whole course, but this, a little bit peculiar. Bumps weren't too bad though for it. It did get some airtime, but fairly controllable with all of that. Well, there we go. That is the Fast and Furious Plymouth GTX, an utterly mad machine. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.